I still remember the moment my son, Jason, looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, you'll be fine in the garage for a while." At the time, I thought he meant temporary. I had no idea how wrong I was. That night, I slept on a folding cot surrounded by dusty boxes and forgotten lawn tools, and by the third morning, I was ready to hand him the eviction notice. It started with his wife Laura, who practically barked across the kitchen table, her voice slicing through the quiet. "Listen, old woman. In the house, you're suffocating us. The garage is the only way this family can breathe. Think of it as a test. If you survive the winter out there, maybe we'll reconsider." She slammed her coffee cup down so hard it rattled. I sat there, hands folded, feeling every inch of my 75 years. I had spent 47 years as a court secretary, organized, respected, the kind of woman who could run a courtroom without ever raising her voice. Yet here I was, left in the dark among cardboard boxes, a cold folding cot my only companion. I had moved in with them after a mild stroke, trusting Jason when he said it was just temporary. I thought help meant groceries, doctor appointments, reminders to take my medications, not a cold garage that smelled like sawdust and rust. The first morning, I woke shivering, the floor covered in a thin layer of sawdust, the cot's metal frame pressed into my spine, the blanket threadbare. There was no heat, no sunlight, just a single flashlight hanging from the wall. I stared at the ceiling beams, counting cracks, noticing the paint bubbles, thinking about courtrooms I would never walk again, the rhythm of the gavel, the smell of fresh paperwork. Later, Jason poked his head out, half concerned, half unwilling. "You okay, Mom?" he asked. I nodded, my voice hoarse, tasting like ash. He sighed. "We'll get a space heater soon. Just need to check the breaker." When the door clicked shut behind him, I heard Laura whisper, "If she freezes to death, we don't have to deal with power of attorney or property transfers." And then she laughed. Better than dealing with her every day. I stayed still, pretending to sleep, heart pounding, mind racing. I remembered filing warrants, turning pages of testimonies, managing schedules for 80-year-old judges with trembling hands. I had never felt so powerless. That night, I wrapped the robe I found over the garage door and sat on the cot, breathing in the scent of cardboard and rust. Had I become just a reminder of aging and dependence? The second night was colder. I thought of my late husband, of his laugh, the warmth of his arms during nights of despair, of our apartment long sold, of the corridors of the courthouse I would never walk again. I thought of Jason as a boy, of piano lessons and college interviews I had sacrificed to pay for. And now, I lay in a garage that smelled like forgotten summer tools, listening to Jason and Laura through the thin vent walls, plotting my incompetence. "I can't believe she's still alive," Jason muttered. Laura's voice, calm but venomous, replied, "Better alive than signing over everything while we deal with her breakdowns." "Not ready," Jason said. "We wait until the lawyer says she's incompetent." I pressed my ear closer. Competent. They were planning guardianship while I froze, thinking they had silenced me, but they'd mistaken my endurance for submission. That night, wrapped in my thin blanket, I realized survival didn't mean silence. Endurance didn't mean compliance. I still had words. I still had clarity. By the third morning, I had a plan. Not revenge, not anger, just truth. My granddaughter Lily had given me a smartwatch 2 Christmases ago. "Grandma, it keeps you sharp," she said. That night, I tapped it 3 times. Red blinked on the screen. It was recording. Every whispered conversation, every plan for guardianship, every laugh over my suffering, I captured it all. The next day, I moved through the house like nothing had happened. I smiled at Jason as he refilled his coffee, returned to the garage, and waited for more guests. Later, Jason's friend Sam visited, loud and boisterous, unaware I was listening. "She's still out there?" Sam laughed. Jason chuckled. "Yeah, garage." "No way she survives long," Laura added. "Garage is the only place she can die and not inconvenience anyone." They laughed. I pressed my watch again. Another blink. Another file saved. Every word. Every tone. That night, I emailed the files to my old colleague, a lawyer named Francis, someone who knew exactly what I was capable of. By 3 a.m., We had filed a temporary restraining order, elder abuse, financial coercion, unlawful living conditions, and a motion to freeze assets. By morning, the order was granted. Enforcement in 12 hours. 12 hours was all I needed. The next morning, I didn't hesitate. I dressed carefully in my dark navy coat, the one Charles had given me for Christmas years ago. Hair pinned back, cheeks lightly touched with color. I held the thick, yellow envelope under my arm like a shield. I didn't knock when I walked into the kitchen. Jason was at the counter, swirling milk into cereal, shirtless and humming, pretending nothing had changed. Laura scrolled on her phone, a smirk curling her lips. I placed the envelope on the table, stepped back, and folded my hands. Jason frowned. "What's that?" he asked, rolling his eyes. He tore it open like it was junk mail and then froze. His eyes scanned the court-stamped header, notice of legal complaint filed, elder abuse, financial coercion, neglect. Plaintiff, Eleanor May Harper. Defendant, Jason Harper. Laura's fingers paused mid-scroll. "What is this?" she asked sharply. "You filed a lawsuit against your own son?" Jason laughed bitterly. "I filed the truth," I said calmly. "You made the garage my home. You made your ambition more important than my well-being. And now, I've made the law my witness." He slammed the papers down. "You can't be serious." "I am," I said. "And so is the judge who signed the order." Before Jason could respond, the doorbell rang. Hard, 3 times. I stayed where I was while Jason stomped to the door, yanking it open. 2 officers stood there, one holding a clipboard. "Jason Harper?" the taller one asked. "Yes," he muttered, trying to mask panic. "You've been served a protective order, approved by Judge Benton, filed under Emergency Statute 57E. We are here to enforce the 30-day no-contact order and to begin a temporary financial freeze pending investigation," Laura gasped. I stood still. Jason's defiance began to crumble. "She's old. She's confused," he muttered. "I know exactly what I'm doing," I said. "I gave you 30 years of sacrifice, and you gave me a garage to die in. Any contact violates the court order." They left within the hour. The garage sat empty that night, silent for the first time in months. I finally sat in the kitchen chair they once said I didn't deserve. I opened the window and let the cold air in, not because I had to, but because I could. By the end of the week, my story had leaked to the local news. A reporter named Terry, someone I knew from my courthouse days, called. I agreed to tell the story, calmly, without dramatics, just the facts. Within 2 days, the headline hit. Mother sleeps in garage, takes son to court, and wins. Subhead: Retired clerk files elder abuse charges after being forced into freezing conditions. My photo outside the courthouse, sharp eyes, calm face, navy coat spread quickly. Regional outlets picked it up. Local radio called. The Central Pennsylvania Women's Alliance invited me to speak. The Harrisburg Senior Council. Even the State Bar Association wanted me to share my story. But what moved me most weren't the panels or TV interviews. It was the letters. Dozens of them. One woman in Pittsburgh described sleeping in her basement while her son told everyone she was traveling. Another in Ohio thanked me for reminding her that quiet doesn't mean powerless. I wrote back to as many as I could, tea on the desk, music in the background. Meanwhile, Jason and Laura's world unraveled. Their church removed Jason from leadership after complaints. A state investigator reviewed the recordings I submitted, including the line Laura had said so casually. The garage is the only place she can die, and not inconvenience anyone. The court temporarily suspended Laura's custodial rights to my granddaughter, placing her with her aunt. I didn't go to watch that happen. I didn't need to. Frances called afterward. "It's done. She's out." There was no satisfaction in seeing a child removed from a parent, but there was justice. Later, I spoke at a seminar called Power in Quiet Resistance. Women of all ages leaned forward, hanging on my every word. I told them, they put me in a garage and called it generosity. I recorded their cruelty and gave it to justice. Not for revenge, but so another woman never feels invisible again. Eventually, I moved into a small second-floor apartment in Mechanicsburg, just 20 minutes from the courthouse I once served. Cozy, simple, mine. Angela, my granddaughter's daughter, helped me settle in, unpacking my few keepsakes, making tea, calling me grandma without hesitation. 3 nights a week, we play dominoes or sit in silence that doesn't bruise it heals. I put the old house up for rent, not to strangers, but to a young couple caring for their disabled parent. Every dollar of rent goes into justice and silence, the foundation I started to help elderly people trapped in situations like mine. We provide legal aid, emotional support, and consultation for those who feel invisible. I still live quietly. My mornings are calm, tea by the window, birds outside, sunlight across the floor. But when I think back to that garage, I don't feel fear. I feel clarity, presence, and power. And I write letters to Jason, to Laura, and most importantly, to my granddaughter. Jason's letter reminds him that respect, not wealth, matters. Laura's is short. Remember where your laughter left me. The hardest is for my granddaughter, Maddie. You did nothing wrong. The silence between us was not your fault. One day, when you're ready, ask everything. I'll tell the truth. I signed it simply. Love always, Grandma. That is the essence of justice in silence. Not revenge, not shouting, not fireworks. Just memory, presence, and the quiet reclaiming of a life. If you've made it this far, maybe you recognize the cold, not a garage, but the cold of being dismissed, underestimated, or erased. You are not alone. To hear more stories of women who endured, reclaimed their power, and turned silence into justice, subscribe to Family Betrayal Stories. Wisdom never retires, and sometimes, justice whispers before it roars.